In her penthouse apartment overlooking Boston's nightscape, Olivia Parker held a photograph in her hands. It was a picture of her with her grandmother Margaret, taken last Thanksgiving at the Boston Harbor Hotel's restaurant. Her grandmother's warm smile remained vivid in her memory. The photo captured them sharing seafood bisque at a terrace table overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. That day, her grandmother had shared the story of how Wilson's began, how she had built a restaurant chain of over 50 locations from being a simple housewife. The tale had touched Olivia's heart deeply. Olivia sighed deeply as she poured herself a Cabernet Sauvignon in her Riedel wine glass. She had just returned home after a long day of meetings on Wall Street. She slipped off her Manolo Blahnik heels and sank into her Italian leather sofa. As autumn's chill crept in, the floor-to-ceiling windows of her penthouse offered a breathtaking view of Back Bay, its cityscape twinkling like scattered jewels. In the distance, she could see the gentle flow of the Charles River. Everything had changed 3 years ago. Her divorce from her ex-husband, a neurosurgeon at Mass General Hospital, had created an irreparable rift in the family. Her parents, overly concerned with their social standing, had chosen a son-in-law from a prestigious hospital over their daughter's happiness. Divorce is absolutely out of the question. Your selfishness will bring shame to our family. Her mother Catherine's cold words still echoed in her ears. In their elegant Beacon Hill mansion, her mother had thrown these accusatory words while adjusting an expensive Hermes scarf around her neck. Her father William had simply continued reading his newspaper in silence. But her grandmother had been different. "It's your life, Olivia. You don't need to live for anyone else. I started my business against all opposition too." Her grandmother had always been her strongest ally. Having built the Wilsons, a restaurant chain from scratch, she despised being bound by old-fashioned values. During their monthly phone calls, she would listen intently to Olivia's work as an investment advisor, sometimes offering advice. And then there were the letters. Her grandmother's handwritten letters had been Olivia's emotional anchor. Each word, carefully penned on cream-colored stationery, carried warmth and comfort. Their last meeting 2 months ago. Near Boston Common, where the leaves were just beginning to turn, her grandmother had spoken with an unusually serious expression. She had pulled up the collar of her Burberry trench coat, glancing around cautiously. "There's something troubling me about my company. William, your father." At the time, Olivia hadn't fully grasped the meaning of her grandmother's words. Looking back now, perhaps it had been a premonition. Currently, all contact with her parents had ceased. Her father William maintained the appearance of being busy as CEO of his real estate company, while her mother continued to play the role of social butterfly. Photos of her mother, gracefully attending weekly charity events, occasionally graced the society pages. With her sister Ashley, she exchanged only superficial emails now and then. As sales director at their father's real estate company, her sister carried the full weight of their parents' expectations. Still, her bond with her grandmother had remained her emotional support through everything. Olivia stood and walked to the window. Her reflection appeared faintly in the glass, her navy Brooks Brothers pantsuit silhouette. Success as an investment advisor, annual income exceeding $200,000, comfortable living, freedom. On the surface, a life wanting for nothing. But the price of losing family bonds had been enormous. As she sipped her wine, Olivia wondered if this had truly been the right choice. One afternoon, as sunlight streamed into the high-rise building on State Street, Olivia was checking her smartphone while having lunch. Just as she was about to review an investment analysis report, her sister's Instagram post caught her eye. "In loving memory of our beloved grandmother Margaret." For a moment, the words on the screen seemed to blur. The attached photo showed her parents and sister in black mourning attire. They stood with solemn expressions against the majestic interior of Trinity Church. The post was from 2 days ago, photos from her grandmother's funeral. It can't be. The blue sky visible from her office window suddenly seemed distant. With trembling fingers, she dialed her mother's mobile number. After 3 rings, a cold voice answered. "What is it, Olivia?" "Mom, why didn't you tell me about grandmother?" A moment of silence. The words that followed were ice cold. "You're no longer family, so there was no need to inform you." "But grandmother." "Stop contacting us. Don't try to return to our world." The call ended abruptly. Olivia stood frozen by the window. The cityscape seemed to waver before her eyes. She barely registered the sound of her expensive Mont Blanc pen rolling onto the carpet. "Ms. Parker, are you all right?" Her colleague Sarah Johnson approached with a concerned expression, but Olivia couldn't hear her. Behind her eyelids, the scene from her last meeting with her grandmother played out. "There's something I need to tell you." The words her grandmother had begun to say that day. But the conversation had been interrupted. And now, she would never hear her grandmother's voice again. "I need to leave early today." Barely managing to speak, Olivia hurried out of the office. On her way back to her high-rise apartment in Back Bay, she couldn't stop the tears flowing in the taxi. When she arrived home, the doorman George greeted her with a worried expression. "Ms. Parker, a delivery arrived for you 2 days ago." A white envelope. The sender was Thompson and Associates, a prominent Boston law firm. Inside were 2 letters, one in her grandmother's handwriting, the other in official correspondence from the law firm. Her hands trembled as she opened her grandmother's letter. "My dear Olivia." The words written on cream-colored stationery seemed to carry her grandmother's voice. "If this letter has reached you, it means I am no longer in this world. And surely, William and Catherine have held the funeral without notifying you. I'm sorry, Olivia. But this is all part of the plan." Olivia caught her breath. The letter continued. "The wrongdoing at my company, it's your father's doing. He's been trying to force me into retirement by buying off the board of directors. But I have evidence. And I've entrusted everything to you." The law firm's letter stated that the majority of O. Wilson's shares had been transferred to Olivia. The transfer date was a week ago. Her grandmother had prepared everything for this day. She picked up the phone and called Thompson and Associates. Senior partner James Thompson, who answered, was fully aware of the situation. "Ms. Parker, everything has been prepared according to your grandmother's instructions. The funeral will be held tomorrow at Mount Auburn Cemetery. Your grandmother was confident you would appear." As night fell, Olivia read her grandmother's letter over and over. And her resolve strengthened. She took out her finest black mourning dress from the closet, a custom-made Chanel piece. It was the last gift her grandmother had given her last Christmas. The next morning, in her Tesla heading to Mount Auburn Cemetery, Olivia took a deep breath. Through the fog shrouding the cemetery, she could see the mourners, her parents and sister, board members, and longtime employees who had supported Wilsons over the years. The moment she stepped out of the car, all eyes turned to her. A murmur spread through the crowd at the sight of Olivia in her perfect black mourning attire. Her parents' faces paled. Ashley wore a complex expression. But there was no turning back. Olivia began walking toward the altar with determined steps. Tension filled the chapel at Mount Auburn Cemetery. The morning sun streaming through the stained glass windows illuminated the anxious expressions of the mourners. Olivia walked toward the empty seat in the front row, a place traditionally reserved for the deceased's closest family. William Parker stood up, attempting to block his daughter's path. However, James Thompson of Thompson and Associates appeared and quietly restrained him. "Mr. Parker, you have no authority to deny your daughter's attendance. I am the head of this family. All decisions here." "No. You no longer have that authority." Thompson's voice resonated throughout the chapel. "As the executor of Margaret Wilson's will, I have an important announcement to make." Catherine Parker shuddered, her perfectly styled hair slightly disheveled. Ashley Parker's gaze darted between her parents and sister. A murmur arose among the employees. Margaret Wilson transferred all assets and management rights of the Wilsons to her granddaughter, Olivia Parker. This decision was legally completed a week ago. "That's a lie," Catherine cried out. "Mother promised us the company would." "Catherine," Thompson calmly interrupted. "Your mother saw through everything. William Parker's illegal attempt to acquire shares, the bribery of the board of directors, and the plan to force Margaret's retirement by falsely claiming she was mentally unstable." The chapel fell silent. Several board members began to fidget uncomfortably. "The evidence has already been submitted to the district attorney's office," Thompson continued. "And this is Margaret Wilson's final letter." Olivia stepped forward and began reading her grandmother's letter. Her voice was quiet yet reached every corner of the chapel. "To my beloved family. Now that I have left this world, it's time for the truth to be told. 30 years ago, I lost my husband and raised a Wilsons on my own. It's not just a restaurant chain. It's our pride and a vital entity supporting the lives of 3,000 employees and their families. But William, you tried to appropriate it all. You attempted to misuse Wilson's assets to cover up your real estate investment failures. And Catherine, my daughter, you participated in this plan to maintain your standing in society. However, there is hope. Olivia is the most honest and business-savvy person I've known. She can protect Wilson's future. And Ashley, I know you have real talent too. I hope you'll walk a new path with your sister. William, Catherine. While my disappointment in you runs deep, this is not punishment. It's a decision to protect our family's pride and our employees' future. And Olivia, I entrust everything to you. Lead Wilsons with your convictions. With all my love. Margaret Wilson. When she finished reading, the chapel was enveloped in profound silence. Tears rolled down the cheeks of several longtime employees. Suddenly, William Parker spoke up in a trembling voice of rage. "This will is invalid. I have lawyers who Mr. William Parker. A new voice rang out. A man displaying an FBI special agent badge approached from the back. You're under arrest for securities fraud and corporate property embezzlement. Catherine Parker screamed. But her voice was drowned out by the metallic sound of handcuffs. Dad. Mom. Ashley's voice trembled. She slowly walked toward Olivia. I wasn't told anything. These past few months, I noticed some concerning things in the company books, but... Olivia embraced her sister. I understand, Ashley. Just then, applause erupted from the back row. It was Rose Martinez, a 78-year-old employee who had been with Wilson's since its early days. Other employees joined in her applause one by one. Margaret always said, Rose's voice warmly resonated, Wilson's a true assets lie in people's hearts. Ms. Olivia, we'll follow you. Olivia gazed at her grandmother's memorial portrait on the altar. Her grandmother's warm smile in the photograph seemed to say, well done. The funeral proceeded with due solemnity. However, it wasn't merely a farewell ceremony, it marked the beginning of a new era. At dusk, after the mourners had departed, Olivia placed a single white lily before her grandmother's grave. Grandmother, I promise. I will protect everything you built. Autumn was deepening in Boston. In the top floor of the Wilsons' headquarters, Olivia faced stacks of documents. A week had passed since the funeral, and shocking facts continued to emerge. Here are the transaction records for the past 5 years. Ashley placed a new file on the desk. Gone was the indecisiveness in her sister's eyes. Since their father's arrest, she had shown remarkable competence. It seems the first irregularities began with the Seaport District redevelopment project. Olivia spoke while reviewing the files. From the high-rise windows, she could see the district in question. What was once a warehouse area had transformed into a cutting-edge business district. Father invested his entire fortune in that redevelopment, Ashley explained. But when interest rates rose in 2022, the project stalled. To cover that hole, he tried to divert Wilson's funds. Sarah Henderson, leader of the audit team from Deloitte and Touche, presented a new report. Ms. Parker, we've discovered the severity of the problem. William Parker paid bribes totaling $2 million to 5 key board members. The source was Wilson's confidential accounts. A complex flow chart of funds appeared on the conference room screen. Experts from the Massachusetts Banking Association shook their heads silently. Through the Father O'Malley Family Foundation. Olivia sighed. Even using the church's charitable fund. Her mother's signature appeared on documents for illegal transfers. She had betrayed the church's trust to maintain her social reputation, as she held an honorary position on Trinity Church's donation committee. Mrs. Martinez, did you know anything about this? Olivia asked Rose, the veteran employee called in for lunch. 50 years of service, since her grandmother's time. Actually. Rose pulled out an old notebook with trembling hands. Margaret noticed everything. But she needed evidence. So she instructed me to keep records. The notebook contained detailed records of suspicious activities over the past 3 years. Board members' unusual behavior, late-night secret meetings, sudden personnel changes. What seemed like minor incidents now served as crucial evidence. But why did grandmother? She was waiting, a new voice rang out. Patricia Thompson, a senior partner from Thompson and Associates, entered the conference room. Margaret was waiting for the right time. Waiting for you to grow into someone capable of running the company. Patricia pulled new documents from her leather briefcase. These are the evidence Margaret gathered in her final 2 years. William Parker's embezzlement totaling $50 million. Multiple offshore accounts in Catherine Parker's name. And evidence of conspiracy with board members. It's like a novel. The autumn dusk was beginning to color the sky outside the conference room windows. But this is our reality. Suddenly, Ashley stood up. Sister, look at this document. She pointed to a familiar signature on the material. Is this Mr. James Sullivan's signature? Father's close friend? Yes. The shadow investor in Father's real estate company. And Margaret's primary physician, Patricia added. William Parker was plotting to have Margaret diagnosed as mentally unstable. They even planned to falsify medical records. The conference room fell silent. The autumn sunset cast long shadows across the skyline. Let's call a board meeting, Olivia said quietly but firmly. We'll disclose all truths, without concealment. The next day, in Wilson's headquarters main conference room. Board members sat tensely around the heavy wooden table. Ladies and gentlemen, Olivia stood up. Her Brooks Brothers navy suit gleamed in the dawnlight. As of today, the board will be completely reformed. Unease spread through the room. However, seeing FBI agents quietly positioned in the room's corners, no one dared object. We welcome highly respected individuals from the industry as new directors. Dr. Elizabeth Warren from Boston Business School, restaurant industry veteran Mr. Robert Chen, and myself. The conference room door opened, revealing an unexpected figure. Mrs. Victoria Astor, their parents' old friend and director of the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. Her appearance caused a stir among the directors. I was Margaret's close friend for many years. And I've decided to carry on her will. A day of new beginnings. The most important day in Wilson's history was about to unfold. That evening, Olivia stood on the headquarters rooftop terrace. MIT's dome glowed in the sunset across the Charles River. Sister, Ashley approached with hot coffee. Not Starbucks, Wilson's original blend with its rich aroma. Grandmother saw through everything, didn't she? Yes. She saw us, and the company's future. The sisters silently watched the sunset. Times were changing, and a new Wilson's was about to begin. Yet the core values would never change, the spirit of caring for people, embodied in every cup of coffee. Well, shall we go? Olivia smiled. We have so much to do. 1 year later, in early autumn, Olivia placed a white lily on the white marble headstone at Mount Auburn Cemetery. The deepening autumn sunlight gently illuminated the inscription, Margaret Wilson, 1938 to 2024, beloved mother and grandmother. Grandmother, we're doing well. A gentle breeze stirred the cemetery trees, sending maple leaves dancing through the air. One leaf softly landed on the headstone. Wilson's had recorded its highest performance since its founding. The new menu development division had created dishes that combined traditional recipes from her grandmother's era with modern elements, and some restaurants had even earned Michelin stars. But what made Olivia most proud was seeing the smiles return to employees' faces. Ashley had established her own consulting firm, using her experience from Wilson's Reformation to specialize in advising family-owned businesses on succession issues. The sisters now regularly met for weekend brunch to share updates about their lives. Their parents had settled into a quiet life in a small Connecticut town. William Parker's prison sentence had been reduced to probation, considering his age. Catherine Parker had distanced herself from her former glamorous social life and started volunteering at the local church. The new board members have been such a blessing. Olivia's soliloquy was interrupted by approaching footsteps. "I thought I'd find you here." She turned to see Rose Martinez slowly walking up, leaning on her cane. Even at 79, she continued to serve as a special advisor to Wilson's. "Rose, let's share some memories." They sat on a bench in the cemetery. Under the maple trees beginning to show their fall colors, they shared stories about Margaret Wilson. This wasn't mere nostalgia, it was precious time spent seeking guidance for the future. Margaret always used to say, Rose's voice floated on the gentle autumn breeze, "A company isn't just a tool for making money. It's a precious place that enriches people's lives." Those words had become Wilson's current management philosophy. In the headquarters lobby hung Margaret Wilson's portrait, and beside it, her words were engraved. "Our mission is to pass on to the future the spirit of caring that goes into every cup of coffee." As the sun began to set, long shadows stretched across the cemetery. Olivia stood and faced her grandmother's headstone once more. "Grandmother, I promise. I'll continue to protect everything you held dear." At that moment, the setting sun cast a red glow on the headstone, making it appear as if her grandmother was smiling warmly. The story of the new Wilsons continued to move forward into the future, marking each step with certainty. As she was leaving, Olivia glanced up at the sky. A white bird soared freely in the clear autumn sky, like a symbol of hope. The family bonds that had once nearly been lost had been revived in a new form, and the company had rediscovered its true mission. This story wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of a new chapter. As she slipped into her car, Olivia smiled while gripping the steering wheel. New challenges awaited tomorrow. But for now, in this quiet dusk, she felt that everything was moving in the right direction. The Boston skyline gleamed in the setting sun.